everybody, Jason up, New 80s Revolution, down here in the cave for the much anticipated return of Wrestling with the Past. My goodness, it has been months since we've done a Wrestling with the Past. And after I got sick, I started watching wrestling just to pass the time. And I figured, you know what? I don't know how I feel. I don't know if I'm ever going to feel better. I don't know if I'm ever going to do YouTube again. I'm just going to watch wrestling. And so I didn't get to share just a little bit with you. We are up to February 1985. And all that means is that I watched the end of January and the beginning of February by myself without you. It's okay. It's okay. Here's a quick recap. Nothing is happening except the build to WrestleMania. And it is February 17th on the show that we're going to start. And nothing, the words WrestleMania have not been uttered. Nothing has been spoken about WrestleMania at all. Okay, so the only thing that we're seeing with WrestleMania is Stud and Andre are still, they're not even really, like, yeah, I'm sure they're wrestling at house shows, but there's no, like, we know that Andre and Stud are feuding because of the haircut. And I think at this point, Ken Patera is almost gone, if not gone, due to arrest. Stud is still walking around with a bag of Andre's hair, but Andre's teaming up with, Junkyard Dog and Jimmy Snuka against Piper and Orndorff and Orton. We got Andre and Dog against Stud and Patera, in January. But nobody's mentioning a $15,000 slam match. This has got to happen all throughout March. It just has to happen all throughout March, and we're only in February. However, the main event of WrestleMania 1 is taking shape, and it all starts from the Captain Lou turning face, teaming with Cyndi Lauper to take on, muscular dystrophy. And at last month's Madison Square Garden show, January's Madison Square Garden show, Cyndi Lauper and Lou Albano are presented with a special award, and in return, for their work for muscular dystrophy, in return, Cyndi Lauper wants to give the WWF one of her gold albums. We have not, Cyndi Lauper, Wendy Richter, this has been gone and not spoken about since Richter won the title from Moolah back in, 84. So we get the awards presentation. Hogan is out there. Dick Clark is out there. That goof Cal Rudman is out there. I forget. Lou Albano, Cyndi Lauper, David Wolf is out there. This is Madison Square Garden. Piper comes out, smashes the gold record over Lou Albano's head, beats up David Wolf, legit potential riot, legit New York City cops are involved. It's heavy. It's heavy. Hogan, of course, leaves the ring before Piper comes. He's out there for the presentation, but then he mysteriously is like, okay, guys, you can take it from here. I'm out of here. Then he comes running out after Piper, obviously. And there's a big to-do with that. David Wolf has cracked ribs, whatever. Albano's on TNT talking about how evil Roddy Piper is. But we still don't have any talk of, the main event. Early in February, it is advertised that there's a very special Piper's Pit. And for whatever reason, Mr. T, after the event in Madison Square Garden, after the awards presentation debacle, Mr. T, out of nowhere, cuts a promo. And it's almost like Hollywood is reacting to what Roddy Piper did because Dick Clark was involved and whatever. So now, like, Hollywood's reacting, and the only Hollywood reaction is from Mr. T. And Mr. T just cuts a quick promo, like, on the set of the A-Team. He just sends in, like, a video that says, you know, I'm very mad at Roddy Piper, what he did to my friend Mr. T. Or what he did to my... I botched it. What he did to my friend Cyndi Lauper. That's not right. Ugh. And that's it. That's it. There's no talk of, like, you know, I'm going to wrestle, I'm going to do all this. Nothing. That's it. That's all we've heard of Mr. T. Then in February, early February, we're in February 17th, which we're about to talk about. Early February, very special Piper's Pit. Not in Piper's Pit at all, but actually on the set of A-Team. It shows Roddy Piper kind of strolling into the set of A-Team. Mr. T's got his back to him. Piper kind of like, you know, pokes him. You know, Mr. T jumps up. Oh, ho, ho, hold on there, you know, Mr. T. So Piper and T are kind of going back at it a little bit. And Mr. T like throws his director's chair at him, you know, with the name Mr. T on the back, kind of pushes it at him or whatever, and you know, there's no pushing, but there's a little pull apart, you know, guys are separating Mr. T, and that's it. That's all we've got so far. That's it. Now, I'm going to do February 17th, 1985. The next card we're going to do, we're just going to focus on it because it is the beginning of WrestleMania. I can't remember if it's the war to settle the score or it's the brawl that started it all, I think it was called. I don't know which one it is. I think it's the MTV involvement. We'll see. I don't know. But the next MSG house show begins to set up for WrestleMania. So we'll talk about that one exclusively. I know the war to settle the score was all about MTV's involvement. I don't think they've come in yet. I think this one happens first. Then there's another house show in March. Then there's WrestleMania at the end of March. I believe the house show in March is the war to settle the score. We'll see. This is crazy. It's fun. But there's your catch-up. You've been caught up. Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo have finally won the titles from Adonis and Murdoch. It was actually at a house show with a floor cam capturing it. And so when they did air it on Championship Wrestling, you got about 12 minutes of it. So it was good. And of course, Captain Lou is with the U.S. Express. All right, here we go. Now, so I'm going through my February discs. I'm ready for what's next. And what's next is labeled All American Wrestling 21785. That's what we're going to talk about right now. All American Wrestling 21785. So I'm thinking, all right, here we go. It's my first episode of All American. It's not the first episode of All American, but it's my first episode. And I was looking forward to it because my memory, All American Wrestling is Mean Gene in the WWF Studios, the WWF Control Center, whatever, with all the control TVs and buttons and stuff. And it's kind of just a recap show. But Mean Gene's segments in between each match are great. You know, there's a lot of inside jokes, a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff. It's great. So I eagerly anticipated this one last night. And when I turned it on, what we got was NWA TBS Championship Wrestling's intro. Ready? I'll do the music. Ready? It's remember that one? Remember that? 605. That's the intro for 605. I'm a musical genius. That's the intro for 605 Championship Wrestling. Well, we know about Black Friday in '84 where WWF took over that spot, but that didn't last long at all. And now, All American Wrestling is on WTBS from the WTBS Studios. The very same studios as NWA Championship Wrestling 605, Tony Schiavone, David Crockett. It's the set. It's the set. They don't use the ring that they did in '84. They don't use the arena, the TBS TV studio. They don't use the arena. They just use the backdrop. So I assume that they're in that studio, that Championship Wrestling NWA 605 was filmed, but we never see it. We never see the ring, we never see the studio, we never see the chairs, we never see anything. We just see the backdrop, which you've seen in these pictures. Freddie Miller is the host. Freddie Miller is not great. He is not great. So I'm surprised. I'm legitimately surprised. Now, I could go and Google all this and find out what's going on and be Mr. Information. But I don't want to. Somebody's calling me. I don't want to. I just want to see how it goes. I just want to play it how it goes. Right? No big deal. So here we go. I quickly learned that this is a total recap show. And it recaps a Maple Leaf Garden TV show, Maple Leaf Wrestling. So it's not even the main show. It's the B show. It's not Championship Wrestling. What is it? All-Star Wrestling. It's All-Star Wrestling matches that I've already seen. And we've probably already talked about. And I'll get to that at the end. But again, it's very surreal because in between each match, it comes back to TBS Studios. And it has Freddie Miller rambling on. He's not great. He's not like a wrestling guy. I think he's just a voice guy, a radio guy. And you can tell if it's a wrestling guy or not. Anyway, it starts things off with JYD versus Mr. X from Maple Leaf Wrestling. Again, I never knew that All American Wrestling was on TBS. I thought it was always on USA Network. Sundays at noon, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually February 17th, 1985, is a Saturday. It's a Saturday. So what is this? Is it because it never identifies itself as All American Wrestling. It's just Championship Wrestling, TBS Championship Wrestling. It's not the Championship Wrestling on Saturday mornings that we're used to with Vince and Bruno. It's just Championship Wrestling from TBS Studios. My disc says All American Wrestling. At no point does it identify itself as All American Wrestling. I don't know. JYD versus Mr. X was a little bit longer than a squash. I don't know if Mr. X is indeed Danny Davis. I can't tell, and I don't think so. Although he does have a few tattoos. He does have a few tattoos, but it just doesn't look like Danny Davis. So I don't know if Mr. X at this period of time was Danny Davis. I don't know if Danny Davis is just the executioner and not Mr. X. I don't know. But JYD wins with a thump. Take a look at this picture. What is next? Just like it is NWA Wrestling on TBS, we have the Coors Play of the Week. And only the diehards are going to remember the Coors Play of the Week segments on TBS. Right? On TBS, during wrestling, and I assume other stuff, they had the Coors Play of the Week where they show either a basketball highlight or a baseball highlight or even a football highlight. Usually it was baseball highlights and it was the Atlanta Braves. And this is just messing with my head because it's TBS, it's NWA Studios, it's WWF Wrestling from Toronto. This disc has all of the commercials intact. So we got commercials for Pert Plus shampoo, Crisco. We come back to the studios. Freddie Miller announces pretty much the rest of the card, and it's all a repeat show from Maple Leaf Wrestling. Okay. Cowboy Bob Orton and Paul Orndorff versus Mohammed Saad and Nick DiCarlo. Heenan is carrying a stretcher to the ring because at this point, for a very short-lived gimmick, Paul Orndorff was just pile drive. Well, he always pile drove people through the mat, but he's pile driving people, and they're getting stretchered out. So now the gimmick is we're going to carry a stretcher to the ring. Paul Orndorff, I got to meet him. I got to buy him dinner. I wish that I had asked him, were you really beating the heck out of people in the ring? Because he is so, we've said this so many times, ridiculously stiff. Paul Orndorff is an animal. And he is just pummeling Mohammed Saad. Again, such an LJN feel with Orndorff and Orton teaming together. I love that. Is this running? Yes, it is. Okay. Sorry. I'm not doing it on my phone, so I can't tell. Mohammed Saad gets himself in trouble in this match. Paul Paul Orndorff has him down on the mat. Paul Orndorff hits the ropes and does his elbow that he always does, right? Well, Muhammad Saad awkwardly moves out of the way. And at no point did this look like he was supposed to move out of the way. There was no offense by the job guys. There's no reason for Saad to move out of the way. It's awkward, but he moves out of the way. And it angers Orndorff so much that he just starts nailing Saad, throws him horribly awkwardly out of the ring. And he's mad that Muhammad Saad moved out of the way of this elbow. Of course, that leads to a vicious pile driver and the stretcher job. Orton and Orndorff, of course, are the winners. Freddie Miller is doing the in-between match interviews in the WWF backdrop, but the interviews are promoting an upcoming card from the Omni in Atlanta, which WWF had no business running the Omni in Atlanta in 1985. That was NWA territory. And I'd love to go back and see the crowds that they drew, because I'm sure they did not draw as well as anywhere else in the country as they did, as they did at the Omni. So it's interesting. Freddie Miller talking about the Omni and interviewing WWF guys. It's just weird. Tito Santana versus AJ Petruzzi. Tito wins with the forearm, but it's another botch. It's not a flying forearm. So Tito whips AJ into the ropes, and I don't know, either AJ comes off awkwardly or Tito's not ready, but as he's running towards him, you expect him to now leap and hit the flying forearm, but he doesn't. He doesn't get off the ground. He just runs into AJ with the forearm, knocks him down, gets the win. Okay. Looks like a little botch. We got the newly crowned tag team champions, the U.S. Express versus Rene Goulet and Moondog Rex. I guess Moondog Spot couldn't get across the border. I'm still waiting to love the U.S. Express. I have always said that the U.S. Express are one of my favorite tag teams and one of my earliest memories of really getting into wrestling, watching them. And their squash matches, their TV matches are not good. Mike Rotundo is a better wrestler in a 20-minute match. Barry Windham is a 5-star wrestler in a 20-minute match. Together in 3-minute TV matches, it's no good. It just doesn't work. Their match against Adonis and Murdoch, where they won the titles, is fantastic. Right? On a January MSG card, Windham takes on Murdoch in a singles match. It's incredible. I would watch the match over and over again. It's so good. But together in these quick tag team matches, I'm not feeling it yet. The bad guys control a lot of this match, and at one point, Rex has Mike Rotundo in a front face lock, okay? And Mike Rotundo is backing up towards the corner, and he gets the tag on Barry Windham. Barry Windham goes up to the top rope, flips over everybody, and does the sunset flip on Rex, and gets the win. Now, that's how they won the tag team titles. And the couple of matches that I've seen of the U.S. Express, after they won the tag titles, they're using that as their finisher. They're not doing the bulldog, the airplane spin. They're doing that sunset flip off the top rope. So they're just going with it, right? That's how they won the titles. They're going to use that. And every time I watch that move, I just think, how? How are you that... First of all, Barry Windham is, 6'3", 6'7", who knows. He's up on the top rope, and he's leaping over two guys, and he's flipping. He's like counting on just everything to work out right, and he's got to land just over the back of Moondog Rex so he can flip him around and do the sunset flip for the pin. I don't know. It looks so good and so difficult to do, and so dangerous. Right? And the confidence that these guys have to have. I was just thinking about this the other day, because Liam and I were doing a stupid thing where we were chopping each other. I wasn't really laying all my 170 pounds into him. But we were chopping each other, and I was cringing with the anticipation of a chop coming. Like I'm like, eh. And when I watch wrestling, none of these guys react to anything. You got Jimmy Snuka flying off the ropes on a guy. The guy's laying there like nothing is about to happen. People are taking chops and their faces are not like wincing or anything. It's just nothing's happening, right? Barry Windham has to jump off this top rope, hope that he lands in the right spot, not even thinking about it. 1, 2, 3, there's the pin, and it's just done like magic. Right, I'm sure guys like Brian Hardy can talk about how do you get it in your head where you've just got to do this. You've just got to take this leap. You've got to take this bump. You've got to take Snuka flying off the top rope and landing on you. Savage dropping the elbow on you. You just have to lay there, and you can't like move. I don't know. Anyway. U.S. Express obviously wins over Goulet and Rex. Now, this is an hour-long show, but there's a ton of filler besides matches. There's a ton of interviews. There's a ton of like in-studio segment stuff with just Freddie Miller rambling on. So I think we've only got like 5 matches. We have Goldie Rogers versus Jimmy Snuka from Maple Leaf Wrestling, probably a January Maple Leaf show. So just last month. Obviously, Snuka wins with the Superfly Leap. And Jesse Ventura is now doing commentary on Maple Leaf Wrestling with Jack Reynolds, who's awful. Jack Reynolds, Angelo Mosca is gone. We've talked about this before. Jesse is actually selling the Superfly Leap as a very impressive move. And he's saying, Jack, there's probably one guy who can get up. He goes, what does Jesse say? He goes, the Superfly Leap, I bet you I'm the only guy that could recover from that, Jack Reynolds. There's not a man on the planet that can recover from the Superfly Leap, maybe except me. I'm paraphrasing, but I thought it was hilarious that Jesse was like really giving Snuka credit, but then saying, I'm probably the only guy that can take the Superfly Leap. Love it. The little things that you notice. We have a commercial. This, now, again, only the rememberers are going to remember. We have a commercial for Goody's Headache Powder. Goody's Headache Powder is a TBS Southern Atlanta NASCAR commercial. I was trying not to say redneck. I'm trying not to say redneck. But it is an Atlanta, Georgia commercial for Goody's Headache Powder. And it's always done by like a NASCAR driver who's like, when I got a headache, I take Goody's. And it's Goody's Headache Powder. It's only a TBS commercial. It's only an Atlanta thing. It's incredible. Apparently you would just put powder in water and there's your aspirin, there's your pill. It's in powder form. All you got to do is get eosinophilic esophagitis, and you got to take your pills in powder form anyway. So, whatever. Give me some love for Goody's Headache Powder, if you remember it. Final matchup is David Sammartino versus Gino Carabello, and announcers are still not getting his name right. It's Garibaldo, it's Carabella. They're just not getting his... It's Gino Carabello. It's spelled Carabello. It's mispronounced by every ring announcer. David Sammartino versus Gino Carabello. Jack Reynolds confidently says that David Sammartino will be a future WWF World Champion. David wins with the power slam. David is, look, all the sons of wrestlers during this era, Angelo Mosco Jr., David Sammartino, I don't even know who else. You think of guys like Dustin Rhodes, like obviously a little later, but it wasn't going to be. It wasn't going to be. These guys are just, they grow up in it. They get of course walked into the business, trained by their fathers or whatever, and it just never works out. David Sammartino just wasn't going to work out. And look, this is controversial, but who in the world thinks that Bruno Sammartino was a good wrestler? Like, I know it's a totally different era, And I think that Bruno was only popular because of the fan base in New York and Philadelphia and the Italians and Sicilians and Madison Square Garden at the time. And, Bruno was horrible. Bruno is, what kind of a wrestler is Bruno? He's a kick punch guy, and that's about it. And then David Sammartino almost wrestles the exact same style as his father. Anyway, that's it. That's the show. And then Freddie Miller signs off. He reminds us that there's a best of show tomorrow on TBS, which would have been Sunday, February 18th, a best of show, which is a recap show, which I just watched a recap show. And I guess my question as I conclude this is, did we care that it was a recap show when we were kids? Or was it just wrestling and that was good enough? And I'm going to go with that. Because I don't think 8-year-old, 9-year-old me would go, oh, I just saw this match 2 weeks ago. I'm not watching this. I think I would have sat there and watched it over and over and over again and didn't care. I care a little bit now. It's kind of hard for me to sit through the recap shows. I'm going to, but obviously it's not the same as an 8-year-old that's doing it. Did you, were you... Because there wasn't a lot of, either you were watching Championship Wrestling, which was new material, you were watching house shows, which was new material, or you were watching recap and B shows. B shows were new material, but recap shows weren't. TNT was never giving you a brand new match. Primetime Wrestling, in the early days of Primetime Wrestling, was not giving you new matches. Later on, they would give you matches from like Baltimore Arena. They'd do house show matches that we didn't see on TV. But were we okay with recap shows? I was. I'm not so much now. I was then. Anyway, that's Wrestling with the Past. Very glad to be doing it again with you. Next show is going to be, I think it's December. It's February. I think it's February 22nd from MSG. So it is finally going to be something that says, hey, WrestleMania is coming. And Mr. T just might be involved. All right, that's that. Imagine a 1-month build to WrestleMania nowadays. Unheard of. Because WrestleMania wasn't WrestleMania back then. It was just a big MSG house show with a fancy name and some celebrities, right? So they have not promoted WrestleMania at all. February 17th, 1985, no mention of it. So they literally promote it in March. 31 days of promotion to WrestleMania. That is all. Wrestling with the Past. We will be back again soon. Good night now.